Jon Jones' return confirmed for UFC 285, and Francis Ngannou cut from the UFC. Today, I'm going to be covering all this news, and I'm going to be covering the fights to make after UFC Fight Night Strickland vs. Imavov, starting with Jon Jones vs. Ciryl Gane, the return of the GOAT of MMA. As for this fight itself, I'm beyond excited. Jon Jones' return to the octagon has been delayed for so long. We thought it was going to come a while ago, and now it's finally here. It's not against Francis Ngannou, but it is for the belt against Ciryl Gane, and this is a very winnable matchup for him. I think he wins this fight because if Francis Ngannou was able to take down Ciryl Gane and hold him there, then what can Jon Jones do to him on the ground? He can take him down. He'll be landing ground and pound. He'll be throwing submission attempts. It's Jon Jones by decision. I think it's pretty clear. And as for Francis Ngannou being cut by the UFC, I'm not too mad about it because I do not want a heavyweight champion that fights once a year at most, it's really annoying. And all he does is whine about his contract. So the UFC just said to him, "We don't need you," and because they don't, they have Jon Jones now. And as for Francis, he'll probably go to the PFL, and I really don't care about him anymore. I'll see the results of his fights on Twitter and stuff, but I'm not gonna be going over to the PFL to watch him fight, to be honest. So yeah, Jon Jones I think beats Ciryl Gane. And now moving on to fights to make after UFC Fight Night Strickland vs. Imavov, starting with the main card opener, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Raoni Barcelos, where Umar slept Raoni. He slept him. I was not expecting that. I thought it was Umar by decision, and Umar impressed me a lot. He slept Raoni Barcelos, and after this, he deserves a pretty nice shot up the rankings. So that's why I've given him Song Yadong. You could already tell this is a banger fight. Get this on UFC 285, probably the main card opener. And he said he'll be ready to fight March 4th. So I'm giving him this fight. And Song Yadong, he's coming off a loss to Corey Sandhagen. This is a good fight for both of them. Very winnable for Umar. And Song Yadong's ranked 8th, so that would be a nice jump up the rankings for Umar. And yeah, that's a very winnable win. That's a very winnable fight for Umar. And moving on to the guy Umar just beat, Raoni Barcelos, I'm going to give him another fighter on this card, Javid Basharat, who just beat Mendoza by decision. And he was impressive in that win. So I'm going to give him a guy that's just outside the rankings. He's on a 3-fight win streak, so I've given him Barcelos. And Barcelos, coming off that loss to Umar, giving him Basharat. Similar time frames, because they both just fought. Get this on a fight night main card in May, April. And that's a really good fight right there. And then I think Javid wins that, though. He's really good. And then the next fight up the card, Caitlin Vieira versus Raquel Pennington. I took Vieira to win. She did win. She won the first and the third round. But the fucking judges screwed me on that one. So, and I guess Pennington's on a 5-fight win streak now. So I've given her Amanda Nunes. She's on a 5-fight winning streak, I guess. It's not really a legit one, because she did not beat Caitlin Vieira, but she's on a 5-fight winning streak. So I've given her, she deserves a title shot, I guess. Just give her Nunes. And, the UFC needs title fights. They need title fights soon in, May and stuff. So get this one in May, April, on, the co-main event of a pay-per-view. Let Nunes beat the shit out of Raquel Pennington, just so that she can go away, to be honest. And then for Caitlin Vieira, coming off that loss, I gave her Penny Kianzad, I think is her name. I don't really know a ton about her, but she's coming off a win to Lena Landsberg, a pretty good win, I think. And she's ranked 7, and I think she deserves a shot up the rankings. And Vieira coming off a loss. Nice comeback fight for her. Very winnable. She'd probably win that quite easily, to be honest, Vieira. So that's a nice rebound fight for her. And moving up the card, Roman Kopylov versus Puna Soriano. I predicted Roman to win by TKO. I was right about that. I predicted that fight perfectly. Puna just wasn't on Roman's level. Roman's really good. That's why I'm giving him against a guy that's kind of rebuilding himself right now, and he's way up the rankings from Roman, which he deserves. So I've given him Edmund Shabazian. That's a banger fight. Get this on like pay-per-view. Put it on a pay-per-view like prelims in May or April maybe. This is a good fight. Shabazian coming off a win at UFC 282 to Dalcha, who's not that good, but Shabazian is still rebuilding himself after that losing streak he had. Kopylov, he beat Alessio Di Chirico at some point, I think on the Paris card, and then he just beat Soriano very impressively, so he deserves this fight. He deserves a little shot up the rankings to get him like just outside the rankings. And I think that's a really close fight between Kopylov and Shabazian. And as for Soriano, I'm going to give him a guy that just recently lost by TKO. Kyle Dawkins, he's coming off a loss at UFC Orlando to Eric Anders. Pretty bad loss. This is a good rebound fight for both these guys, to be honest, and I think Puna wins this. I think Puna knocks Kyle Dawkins out. I mean, Puna didn't look great against Kopylov, but this is a good fight on a fight night main card in May, June. Give Puna some time to train, recover, all that, get better, because he really needs it. He did not look good against Kopylov at all. So, moving on to the co-main event, Dan Ige versus Damon Jackson. I predicted Dan Ige win by knockout. He won by knockout. Pretty good. And the UFC seems to just make the biggest fights they can, and that's what I'm doing for them. Dan Ige, Bryce Mitchell. Banger fight. Put this on a pay-per-view main card in like April or May or something. This is a banger of a fight. Dan Ige coming off a win against Damon Jackson. Bryce Mitchell. Dan Ige goes up the rankings a little bit. Bryce Mitchell is coming off the loss to Ilia Topuria, obviously. And this is just a banger fight. This is close, too. I mean, good fight for both these guys. Good rebound fight for Mitchell after his loss, and good fight for Ige, still trying to rebuild himself a little bit after his losing streak he had. And moving on to Damon Jackson, who just got knocked out by Dan Ige. I'm gonna give him a guy that fought recently, lost to by knockout as well. Julian Erosa. This is also a really good fight. Get this on a fight night card in like April or May maybe. And yeah, this is a good fight for both, because both these guys just lost by knockout. So this will be a good way for whoever wins this to build themselves back up and try to get into the rankings again. And now, on to the main event, Nasruddin Imavov versus Sean Strickland. I predicted Imavov to win by decision, but he looked really bad, Imavov. I was not impressed with him at all. So he looked bad. He lost to Strickland by decision, so I'm gonna give him a shot down the rankings a little bit against a guy that just won by knockout at UFC 282. I'm gonna give him Chris Curtis. This is a really good fight. I think Curtis wins this. Put this on like a fight night co-main event in like May, and this is a good fight. Curtis just coming off the knockout win to Joaquin Buckley, and Imavov off the loss to Strickland. So this fight makes sense for both of them. Curtis up the rankings a little bit, Imavov down. And yeah, get that on like a fight night. Moving on to Sean Strickland. He looked pretty good, I guess. Just that's the way he fights. He executed what he always does perfectly against Imavov. And I'm gonna give him a little jump up the rankings after that fight. Not huge. I'm gonna give him Paulo Costa. Get this on a pay-per-view in like May or April. I think the UFC and Costa will like figure out his contract, and they could tell Costa like, oh, this isn't as hard as a fight as Whitaker. But imagine the press conference with these two guys. Both these guys are just absolute jokesters. That would be hilarious. That'd be fucking hilarious. And that's a pretty close fight. But I'd lean towards Strickland in that one against Costa. And yeah, that's just an amazing fight. That has to be on a pay-per-view and that press conference is gonna be awesome. And yeah, that's it. That's my prediction for Ciryl Gane versus Jon Jones and fights to make after UFC Fight Night. Sean Strickland versus Imavov. I went 3 for 2 on my picks. 3 wins, 2 losses. I mean, Vieira won though, so I mean, I was pissed. Vieira, she looked alright though. But yeah, 3-2 on my predictions, and I'll see you guys in the next one.